Welcome back, Guardians. My name is Samla, and today we're going to be doing a trailer breakdown. The new dungeon that is coming along with the Renegades expansion in December is called Equilibrium, and this is going to center around the location on Mars and the Imperium, which is the new force that's kind of like the Red Legion of the Cabal. This is a Cabal-centric story, although there is some other overlap, and we'll get into that in a moment. But let's play this trailer through. I want you all to watch it, and then we will talk about exactly what's going on and what that means. So here's the trailer.
6. Everything you've shown me, I've made real. I've marshaled a new Imperium to snuff out the light. My violence is yours. You know what comes next. Give me strength. Take everything I have.
Okay, so this is pretty massive. I'm going to go ahead and mute this as it loops in the background. Right off the bat, I'm sure many of you are wondering, what am I looking at? And also, what am I hearing? Which is the most important part. And it's funny the way that this has been overlaid. There's so much meaning in the undertone being carried here. Unless you listen closely, you'll miss it. 6. Who is 6? We have had no reference to numbers other than the Edge of Fate, and everything being focused on the 9. 6 is referring to the 6th planet in our solar system, that is the planet of Saturn. There is a lore book called Epochs and Orbits that has a very interesting lore entry from 6, who is Saturn, and her perspective of what is happening pre-Edge of Fate, during Edge of Fate, and kind of a little bit of post-Edge of Fate. I'm going to assume that 6 is female because of the tone we get when you read this lore entry, so I'll leave that lore entry in the description for you. I'm yet to do my big Pantheon of the Gods video, but I think now that we're getting close to Renegades, it probably makes sense for me to finish that video up. I have 2 other lore videos coming out that are adjacent, which is all to do with the Golden Age AI. It is long, it's probably like 35 minutes long. And then I also have another little video about Ahamkara returning, which is going to be equally as long, so just expect some more long form content. And then the Pantheon of the Gods video, it's also pretty long, but I want to use the Epochs book to underlay that video and kind of keep it focused on one book specifically instead of bouncing around all over the place. But there will be some other like tidbits and interesting information and lore beats that I think are relevant to understanding the landscape of our sentient beings, our deities in Destiny's lore and Destiny's wider universe. But yeah, this story here with the Imperium basically relies heavily on what was kind of suggested, kind of rumored at by Allison herself and some of the other members of narrative in the writing, is that essentially 6 has endorsed, he's sponsored this particular sect of Cabal who are calling themselves the Imperium to snuff out the light, which I think is very interesting. This is very much Red War vibes I'm getting in terms of the story. In a lot of ways, that potentially feels frustrating to me that we are starting a 10-year saga all over again, if that makes sense, but pushing that little bit further ahead, and I'm almost certain I have used that sentence structure before when it comes to analyzing Destiny's lore We seem to move in repetitive cycles even with progression, and so we still end up with more questions than we do finite conclusive answers. And when Final Shape ended, it was the end of the Light versus Dark saga. And I use saga in the loosest terms possible because that whole first chapter of Destiny felt like just a scratch on the surface of what is deeper lore. And if you're somebody like me or any one of you who are watching right now, who are watching Destiny's lore, you will and reading Destiny's lore, you will know that things run way deeper than they do with the surface level of just gameplay and overall campaign story. The lore books and the flavor texts and the lore that comes with armor and weapons is really where the true story of Destiny is told, and so I'm very interested and intrigued to see where this is going. I know that Star Wars is just the aesthetic, but the actual story here, I'm keen to find out what exactly is going on and how Saturn 6 is essentially sponsoring or endorsing the Imperium in order for them to grow. So this may be a case of perhaps 6 pulling technology from the past into the present for the Imperium, and so it would explain how they've been able to gain technological advancements. It may be similar that 6 has done what the Traveler has done, and it has uplifted a peoples. These are really interesting and fascinating themes to me, because we've learned all about how the Traveler did this very same thing with the Precursor race, with the Nihilists and all the other factions that made up the Precursor race that then later became one being entity, which was the Witness. But the Traveler essentially appeared before species on a planet and would give them access to the light and give them a furthered understanding of how to develop their technology and even extend their years. The Eliksni experienced this, humanity experienced this, the Kugu didn't experience it from the light. The Kugu experienced it from the darkness, but that was because a pyramid had been planted in their world. It was almost like a seed in order for the Witness to see exactly how that civilization would bear fruit, and then the Witness shows up to cultivate it, harvest the fruit. That was essentially the process that happened, and so that's why the Kugu's lore is very ritualistic and symbolic, because they were a very tribal orientated species. But here with the Cabal, a warrior race, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how 6 has enlightened them and why in particular this faction of the Cabal are disgruntled against the Knight. Now I'm going to assume, without knowing too much detail because I don't focus on Cabal lore as much as maybe I should. My name is Bife, tends to have a lot more to say about the Cabal, so definitely check out his video when his drops, I'm sure later today or tomorrow or whenever, about this trailer. But I will say that this Imperium is likely to be made up of defectors from Kaiatal, defectors from the Red Legion, and potentially defectors even from Callus and the Leviathan ship, and potentially Red Legion as well. There is some crossover section, and I know that there's some lore out there right now that talks about these defectors and the fact that they have formed their own faction and they are in direct opposition to Kaiatal, and they don't like anything that she stands for, and they loathe the idea of there being a coalition between different species. So, yeah, interesting to see how that develops. I did see in this trailer a black saber. Very, very, very Mandalorian. I didn't think that Bungie would do that. We would have a black lightsaber. I'm keen and interested to see how the mechanics of the lightsaber ties into Destiny's lore overall, and why these swords are in our story in the first place, and what the significance is of them. And as Guardians, do we get to dictate what color the light of our saber will be? Because obviously in Star Wars, the whole idea of a lightsaber is it reflects the personality of the person wielding it. Each person makes their own lightsaber, so I would love that to be the case for us as Guardians, rather than like having to choose between, choose white, green or blue, which is probably from a gameplay mechanic likely to be what the case is, but I'm hopeful for more, because we have crafting, so why not, right? Why not give people unlimited ability to craft any combination of lightsaber blade colors? Give us agency. It's what makes us feel even more a part of the story than we have been before. So this is what the story is likely to center around. Six, the planet Saturn, the sixth member of the Nine, raising the Imperium, essentially elevating them, helping them with technology. And the scope, the intrigue here is that they want to get rid of the light for some reason. This Six, I'm going to assume, is a part of the faction of 3 who are completely opposed to the inner planets of our solar system, Saturn being a little further out, and that there being the whole Saturnian system of planets and moons, which we haven't visited a whole lot of them. So it'd be interesting to see how that works out, and really what the thing is behind this. I know Drifter obviously is involved here and gets in the thick of things, and we know that Arnor in a lore entry spoke to Ikora Rey about the fact that she's been tasked with babysitting duty. But this story is potentially massive because it has huge ramifications of the fact that members of the Nine are doing things that they shouldn't do, all bearing the fact that 3 told us we need to unite the Nine, bind them into one. But it sounds like some of the Nine won't be part of that process if they're choosing to wreak havoc in the universe because they can. This would be the equivalent of, say, like Zeus or Poseidon or any other Aphrodite, any other Greek mythology god, choosing a champion and blessing that champion with everything that they possibly can. Special armor, special gifts, special sword strength, whispering to them. I think that's the way that we can look at the Imperium and whoever it is that they have at the top of their hierarchy. It would be like Dominus Gaul having access to a member of the Nine. That sounds insanely scary to me. And with the technology that they already created in order to capture the Traveler, it's going to be interesting to see what they do this time. Obviously, we know adjacent to that, there was the whole idea of Rasputin's Warsat network being utilized as a huge laser beam to crack the shell of the Traveler. So it will be interesting to see if that's what the Imperium are building with their own Death Star, if it's just a massive Death Star to completely destroy just the Traveler, or to destroy the Traveler and also humanity in one foul swoop. So yeah, these are my fresh thoughts on the trailer breakdown. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and yeah, we'll go back and forth and discuss potentially what is happening here. If you have any questions, also leave them in the comment section. But that's all I have for you. I hope you have enjoyed watching and listening to today's video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and comment. Consider subscribing, click the bell to find out when my next lore video goes live. Remember that no matter what you're facing at this moment in time, you can do all things. Stay safe and Godspeed.